Folks, it appears this clock is a little slow. We're at 7:01, so if we can stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. I will be pinch hitting for Supervisor Bain. She is on vacation this week. We do have more agendas up here for anyone who likes. In the meantime, anyone interested in moving the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Kathy,
I'll second.
second by Rochelle. Discussion. It's a nice set of minutes, I thought.
I thought they were great.
Wasn't there a spelling error in the name?
You fixed.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, don't
all right.
fixate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. We got a few minutes before the public hearing. So Randy, it's all yours, sir.
Alright. I'll try to do this a little bit in chronological order for you. Paving went well out to the side here.
Looks good, yeah.
We have submitted to the insurance company all the bills, so on and so forth. I have not heard back from them because it did come in higher than the estimate, which we kind of expected. Nothing has gone cheaper this year.
No.
And he said they should pay it, so we'll see how that works out. Museum trees that were in between there and Ryan Germain's property were taken down by joint cooperation between Patrick Vetter and the town. The trees were basically on the property line, so we wanted that great big pine down.
Yeah.
Ryan wanted a couple little ones down that were there, so Patrick donated his time, so I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
And his employee time. And
Indeed.
obviously also his equipment and trucks and chainsaws and all that, so it went very well. It was a long day. We started at 10, got done at 5:30 at night, but we had a window of opportunity and we took it, so.
That was before 5:30 was dark.
Yes, that was before 5:30 was dark,
I can see you out there with the, well, absolutely thank you for that work. And it was needed. If we're gonna do all this improvement to the museum, we'd really rather it not be crushed by a couple of
Exactly.
monster white pines.
He was literally cutting tree limbs that were growing into the ridge cap of the museum. I mean, they found their way into it, so. He's like, yeah, we definitely need to take these down. I said, yeah. So, at this point in time, we have probably 2/3 of our plow trucks ready for the winter. We just completed the inspections of all the trucks today. The garbage truck Monday or Tuesday passed inspection, which was no small feat.
But
So that's a plus. It is coming back into the garage tomorrow for more brake work. That just happened today, so it's only, I mean, I'm crossing my fingers to get to next spring.
the duct tape's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Oh, it's duct tape, there's gonna be a lot of it.
It'll be pretty.
Well, we wait till delivery.
The shrubs, bushes, I don't know the proper names, but I have been moved from the front of the library to the back of the library. So that is, I don't know if they're going to live, but we went by a guided person.
We root pruned them.
Okay.
What did we do?
We root pruned them once they went dormant,
Shouldn't know that.
and then the guys came down and dug new holes for them, and we will.
It's all the time.
We dye our roots at this end.
What?
Thank you for the work.
We have some lights here at the library that need to be changed, I was just informed of. I think we're going to stay with, I had in my notes here, speaking about a timer for the outside lights, but I think we've come up with a sufficient plan. Do you agree, Karen?
Yeah, I do. For now, I'd like to try that.
Yeah, see how it works and.
Yeah.
Simple is always best.
Snowmobile trails, I left here with a little bit of a sour note that they were trying to cut some of our mileage out last meeting. After a long, 45-minute discussion on the computer with them, we got about half of it back. And the reason we didn't get all of it back is because some of our trails, not only in Indian Lake, but also here in Big Brook area, go on to other townships with the GPS coordinates that they give. They are at only Lake Pleasant, and they take the GPS and they overlay it with that map, and if that trail happens to blend over the town line,
Up in Indian
they
Lake.
take that little section out. And then they take this little section out, and then they take this little section out, and it ended up to be like 0.72 miles, which they rounded, which this time didn't help us,
Oh, good.
because 0.72 in their mind is a mile. So we lost a mile trail plus that, which comes out to, they pay us per mile. On the good note is we got our voucher from the state for the snowmobile trails, and it went up of almost $6,000, even though we are a mile shorter. So that's a good sign, they're actually putting more money into it.
You got the voucher.
We got the voucher,
Right.
and I got the check, but the voucher.
That's a
had
good
that
sign.
number on it, and Betsy signed it and mailed it back to him, so that's a very good sign, like, that the state came out with more money after 4 years of being the same exact money. That's,
So it was time.
Was it 40 or 57 miles, or how many miles are?
it was 57, now we're down to 56, I believe is.
And how many unfunded miles did we do? Is there a?
I don't know that number. Because just in the village here, there's a bunch.
Sure.
There's a lot in Perkins Clearing, as you know.
Yeah, Paul Allen might know the one to this end.
Yeah, but we never calculated
No.
everything. Like Page Street, and, I mean, there's just,
Yeah, that would be an interesting number to me to have.
Frustrating.
Yeah,
Well,
if you knew.
yeah. And then calculate the hours and the time that we groomed that would be, I mean, we're already 3 times as much grooming hours than what they pay us back for
Yeah.
on average. So that's a considerable amount. 3 of the employees that are in the groomers and trail cutting, or going to be, I should say, took chainsaw safety courses last week, 1, 2, and 3, actually, week before. So they are now, quote unquote, qualified to work in state land and line timbers land. I didn't know that until today, that line timber also requires that for anybody cutting on their property. But
Makes sense.
yeah, we fall under the state land and blah, 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 in our TRP. So 3 out of however many is, I'm also certified, but I don't know how many years the certified thing stays on. I didn't ask that. I took a course out in Rochester at one of our NICA meetings.
So if you have a substitute groomer person, so somebody's out sick or whatever and. what
Technically,
happens?
they're not supposed to cut with a chainsaw. Has to be, any tree cutting on state land has to have 1 certified cutter. So if I put 2 guys in a groomer to go out and cut the trails out or whatever, or the side by side, one of those has to be certified.
Right, the other one can be clearing brush or prep.
Dragon brush, yeah.
Dragon.
It's one of those, gray areas. They also are requiring first aid and CPR training for anybody in the permit, and they have been, found out that today also. But we have not done that, so that's something else to work towards getting everybody. The problem with that is every 2 years is a new class. So
Yeah, you gotta be certain.
we recertify
That's an annual?
by,
Biennial.
Right.
needless to say, I used to be, but I am no longer. So,
Wow.
We've had some more, hopefully resolved health center heat issues. After all the heat issues that we had, the furnace decided on Monday morning to quit. I called them back because they just serviced it the week before, or 2 weeks before. And he came up and found absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it was working fine and dandy. He spent 5 hours here, tore that thing down to the bare bones of it.
Who do you have?
RBM Heating and Air Conditioning. And he literally found nothing. He said that, he could throw parts at it, but everything that he looked at he goes, it could have been just an air bubble.
Yeah.
He has no idea why it just tripped out and then it got cold because it was 63 degrees or something like that. I am going to buy some more lock boxes because after all the last ordeal, I found that the temperatures were played with again. Fans were stuck in the on mode and the auto mode and so on and so forth. So,
Lock them down.
yeah, and we're going to have to put the locks on. And last week, I was brought to my attention that our lift at the bus garage had not been kept up on the inspection, so I called the inspector, and he came today and inspected it. We always thought there was a 2-year biannual inspection, and that's what it even says on the sticker that's on the lift. It has every 2 years listed, but their bus garage insurance says it needs to be done every year.
That's new to me too.
I called the inspector on Thursday and he was here today, so.
That's pretty good.
And everything passed, so that's even better.
Mhm.
And that's all I have for my list.
No.
I think for me.
Turn it over. Please don't help him, Eileen. Thank you, Randy. Well, this is his
You got
opportunity.
4 minutes.
It was pretty good. This is an opportune enough time to both welcome the budget officer, Nancy Sipes, and open our public hearing. Tonight's public hearing is about under the budget. Nancy, you want to say a word?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank all the department heads who worked very hard, trimming and trying to keep the budget within reason this year. And several meetings of tweaking, and the budget committee, I believe, came up with a very good budget of a 1.07% increase over last year's budget. And we're well within the New York State's tax cap, so we're doing quite well.
Yeah, Nancy and Betsy and I worked on this several meetings, speaking with the board, but the horror stories we're hearing across all of our other townships that surround us, naturally supervisors chat when they're at the county hat, when they're wearing those. County still has to do their budget, but faced with 10% health insurance cost increases, not across the board, not for the senior service, but for the staff, which is the bulk of the expense. It was a daunting task. Few things may have been shaved, but I think we met an increase that was necessary from our fire department contract. So naturally, there's a lot of increases. Randy's budget was rife with items that naturally you knew were going to go up. Anything petroleum-based, anything pavement-based, anything fuel-based of any kind, whether it be heating or over-the-road trucks, all saw an increase in that budget. We've tried to control a lot of that with manpower, with a little smaller, leaner staff. And yeah, I'm proud of it. I leave out the 0.7 part. because you say 7, it resonates. It's a 1% budget, and while a 0 is better, I think you're gonna find this is the best town budget in the area, and we're proud of it. But I do have a certain amount of stuff here to answer questions as we go along. We'll keep that open hearing going for a half hour or so. So if anyone has any questions right now, we can field them.
I don't have a question, but first I'll address as a taxpayer.
Sure.
I want to thank you all very much for working so hard and keeping it where you did. I'm sure it was a very difficult task and a lot of difficult decisions that have to be made. But as a taxpayer, I appreciate that you working for the people in the community. Secondly, as the library board president, I want to thank you for your support in supporting our library budget. That too is challenging as we're trying to move forward and do more and more with the library. And to state that the library also does their part. Because I was told a long time ago by somebody who, when I was working on the parade committee, in fact, that you have to do your part. You're asking the public to support you, in this case the municipality, to support the library. I believe that the library has to do their part as well, and not just look at the handout from the town to operate by. And I think that I have to commend the library board and the staff here and Sherry for working very hard this year, and I'm sure you saw our revenues, our donations, our fundraising. The raffle ticket will be drawn on Black Friday, so get it. That has done very well. The point being that we do our part too, so we appreciate what you're doing, but I also want the board to know that we're working for that as well, so that we can keep what we're looking from the town to the most feasible to keep our programs going and to continue to go forward so that this library doesn't remain stagnant.
Right.
So that we can keep improving on different programs and services.
And you've done that.
So I
well-
want to thank our library board, I want to thank the town board as well.
I definitely would thank the library board. You yourself do a tremendous job. And of course, it's pretty shrewd that you would have 2 of our most important people in the board
We didn't stack the
on
books.
your
We
library
didn't
board.
stack.
That it gives a certain amount of perspective for the rest of us on the board
Yep.
about what you folks all do. Yeah, a lot of programs every year. It seems like there's a few more things and a few more things for kids, and that's what it takes. This is an asset, one of the few town-owned, public assets we do have. But yeah, you had very, very, very small increases, and quite frankly, from the budget committee, we don't do too much scrutiny on the library board budget these days, simply because you folks are frugal and responsible.
Good, thank you.
I said it so you wouldn't have to. Well, as I say, just shoot a hand up if you think of other things. In the meantime, we'll go through the regular housekeeping. Cemetery committee, Kathy?
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, the committee met back on October 24th, and that would be Stephanie, Randy, and myself. And we had a few changes to recommend. I shared them with you so that you could see if you had any questions about the changes, but I'll draw your attention to number 4 under reservations and fees, that minor children, once they become the age of 18, need to make plot reservations in their name.
Good idea.
Well, once they hit that age. Second change we made was number 8, which is on, there are families who are taking full body plots and would like to turn them into a family crematory site. So we suggest that somebody who is a taxpayer or resident can reserve a full-body plot as a family crematory site for 8 crematory burials. Based on suggestions from the different funeral directors, it has been recommended for number 9 that holiday and Sunday burials not happen because of their staffing issues.
And ours.
Yeah. We increased in number 11, the disinterment fees, which require New York State rules and regulations. But once that happens and next of kin has requested from the highway superintendent a disinterment, there are new fees, $350 for a cremation or $600 for a full burial. And that we are going to need a hold harmless agreement so that any damage done or problems that may occur are
Standard.
not our fault. Last change we suggested was some people are requesting that headstones now be slanted. So instead of just the flat ones like you see for the veterans, second stone, there's the headstone, and some people are now requesting that they be at a slant. So we just ask that none of the slanted stones exceed 6 inches in elevation. Just so people aren't, it's not blocking other people.
Does that work?
Yes, so in a cremation, as the cremation sites, that even whether it's a full body that was turned into a family, if you put a tall headstone, say a foot tall, someone standing there looking at the second or third person can't read the
Gotcha.
next headstone.
Right.
So we want it flat and or maybe just a little bit of a slant.
Gotcha.
The reason they're asking for the slants is quote unquote, the water's going to run off of it and it's going to mold less and so on and so forth.
It's also
That
easier.
happened well if it's going to mold over years. But
Yeah, the lichens just love those headstones. There is one other change though that we made. Under number 14, when people choose to put flowers, wreaths, white lights, we just want them to keep them no more than 14 inches above the ground level.
And that's something that you've dealt with over time, just standardizing that is a good thing.
he is standardizing and cleaning it up afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. You know, wreaths across America, I can't get to everything until after the snow is gone, and
Of
then
course.
we go in and we make a pile. So,
Well, thank you for the work on the committee. That's, this is sort of thankless tasks. Everyone has charged emotions when it comes to certain services that we render. Any questions for Kathy? Is that all you have, Kath, on cemetery?
Well, we just need to, do you want to accept those rules?
Would you like to move your recommendation?
sure, I'll move that the cemetery committee's recommendations be accepted as of November 8th, 2022.
And I shall second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We can implement those post haste. New business. There's one sort of left off of there. I want to thank Joan Bronius, who has served for many, many years on the Lake Pleasant Planning Board. Joan has submitted her resignation with, family things to deal with. And Betsy has reached out to a former planning board member who left with family issues at the time. We've asked her back and she has very, very happily accepted. So I just want to move Barbara Tracy as a new, or old and now new, planning board member. I look for a second.
Second.
Discussion. This is one that we don't have to retrain or train at all. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That works because tomorrow night is the planning board's first meeting of fall, and I will call Barbara tonight to let her know that she's back in the stirrup. Thank you. Health insurance report, Stephanie.
Okay. Betsy, Neal, Nancy, and I met with Megan on October 19th, where Megan presented to us MVP plans. She also gave us some options, I think it was CDPHP, but they were a little out of our ballpark. Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, she didn't bring to us because of what's going on in the area with that anyway. She did not bring us another option for the HRA, but she did, again, express that there were other options, that people were having issues with Prime Pay. Not us at that time, but as of now, we're starting to see that Prime Pay can be an issue. So on October 20th, Betsy, Neal, and I met with Arnie Morehouse, who is a health representative for Marshall and Sterling. I believe he's out of Glens Falls. They've got different offices. So Arnie presented to us MVP's current and renewal. It's basically the same. We've got this 9.87%, call it 10% increase. The only other options are to change the plan from what they've already got. To possibly, the next step down is the HMO option, which would only increase us at 4.85%. But then, you know, you're not getting the same care, and you can't leave New York State and get care. And plus you gotta have referrals and everything else that's an HMO plan. So, right now, the current coverage, you can use it out of state. It does not cover eye and dental. That can be put under the HRA, but if it's put under the HRA, that's gonna cost more for the town, and then you gotta decide, is it going to be just for the employees or the employees and their family members? So the committee decided basically to keep things as they are with the plan that they have now. It looks like we just have to eat this 10%. So Arnie went ahead and let us know that Prime Pay is not our only option. We can go with a wrap together bundle through MVP for our HRA.
And just slow you down a little bit for those who are uninitiated. Prime Pay is a credit card that's given to the covered souls of the staff that they swipe to apply to various medical expenses. And I don't want to jump chronologically ahead, but we had all those meetings and decided that we needed to ask some questions. And then when asking our young broker, who we inherited when Brian Molt retired from this firm, she was not giving answers that would engender a lot of faith in them, particularly this Prime Pay, which she was the one telling us. Stephanie had not had that many problems, but she was saying how they were seeing across their workbook a good amount of it, only to find out when we decided almost the last minute to take the meeting with Marshall and Sterling that MVP, the firm we buy these insurance products from, has their own version of this, credit card, et cetera, in-house, without a lot of the extraneous nonsense that we have been dealing with for the past 2 years. That was enough for me and for the rest of the committee to say, let's change brokers. So in fact, what we're endeavoring to do tonight is to change our broker and yet keep the same insurance product that the staff, both in the office and the staff that is covered, feel comfortable with, which is a high deductible product, can be complicated. And the more we spoke with this Arnie Morehouse, we came to find out there's gonna be a lot more in-house support at their end, at Marshall Sterling, than there may have been at this smaller firm. Marshall Sterling is a national firm. He did a very good job of making us feel more comfortable for the service that would be rendered, again, to our covered souls, some of whom are really in dire need right now with current illnesses, and also with the staff and Stephanie. So that, I mean, that's sort of jumping the cart, but that's where we are now, same product, as you said, with really no wiggle room. If we're gonna stay with this premium MVP product, we're gonna, as you say, eat the almost 10% increase.
Right, and hopefully the HRA is not gonna go up much if we just leave everything the same.
Same.
There. So we need to pass before the board the resolution to take on Marshall and Sterling. Do you want me to keep explaining the rest
No,
of the fun
no,
stuff?
I think that we don't wanna lose them in the weeds here.
Okay,
The resolution is to move the health insurance to Marshall and Sterling, and I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? For those that were in the room, was fairly obvious. And nice to hear that the young lady that worked for the other firm, I think CDL, was very gracious in her accepting the news.
yes, she has been. She called me this afternoon and she said if we need any help, let her know. I told her we were having a little difficulty all of a sudden with the prime pay, and it's not for the employees, it's with
The back of the house.
with
Yeah.
us trying
Sure.
to get through to them, is what the difficulty is, and for Arnie to get things switched over with them.
Right, it'll be 6 weeks of muddy water switching over.
Right,
But
he
when we
still
come
hasn't
out,
gotten through to them.
right, but when we come out of that, I think it'll be more seamless for both the staff and you all, and B, we'll get a fair amount of money that's tied up in this HRA at the NBT Bank in Syracuse. We don't need to have as much money up front as we did in the last program as well. All in all, service is important from a broker, and I think we're gonna get it there. Call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That carries. You have in your packets a fair amount of simple resolutions. We just passed number 1, which was dealing with the moving of the brokers. The next is another amendment to a resolution 102, Town of Lake Pleasant Town Board approving the purchase of the Peterbilt new garage garbage truck. The town board agrees to order the truck for a cost increase of $5,000. This brings the original cost of $197,143 to $202,143. We have discussed this at some length over the course of meetings. We're getting a year's newer truck, and we're being charged for it. The funds will cover total cost of the garbage truck. Much will be covered by the American Rescue money and the garbage truck reserve fund. The balance will be financed through a bond anticipation note that we are putting together now. Someone like to move that?
I shall move it.
Don?
I'll second.
Second by Rochelle. Question? Comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So ordered. The next is an amendment to Resolution 107, which deals with the transfer of funds from the DA 1990.400 and the DA fund balance to line DA 1910.400 to cover the NYMER, that's the New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal Yearly Bill. Transfer those funds from those lines to an A fund to cover that bill. I won't read the entirety of it. The fund balance for the total $4,902 to line A 1910-403. And I will move this.
Second.
Second by Don. Discussion. We had this one on the business for a while. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's passed. The next one is for the town to fund the expense line A7140-400. This is increasing the expense line, whereas the expense line so meant will be offset by increased revenue of $38,784 in account A2680, insurance revenue. This deals with the aforementioned paving work, am I lost there? Yeah. The paving work for the parking lot. But we do need to put that money from the insurance company into an A line, and there it is. These changes are for repaving a parking lot at Lake Pleasant Public Library and Health Center. Someone like to move that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Michelle.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, that also carries, Stephanie. Committee reports. Youth, anything from the last time?
We met with Laura O'Brien from Oak Mountain again to try to continue working on our ski program. She's going to be sending out the papers to the students, what was it, next week?
This week.
This week.
Late this week.
So hopefully we'll get an idea of how many students are going to be participating and make a definite plan from there. We are also in the process of working on writing up a bill for Arietta for the summer youth rec program for the children from Arietta that participated.
Yeah, the cooperation that you two have seemingly rediscovered or put together is great, because our kids go to school together. It's very hard to extricate the expenses. You gotta find some common ground and share in services.
Is there anything else?
Oh, we did contact children who are homeschooled to make
Yes.
sure that they're kept abreast of what's available.
That's great. Is that number, do you know, Kat, is that number
There's
on the
currently
way up or down, or?
2.
Oh, so it's gone down from some time ago.
There's currently 2 homeschooled children who are in the age bracket that
Well, that's good.
receive ski lessons. As far as other committee reports, the short-term rental committee met in October, and we're having our second meeting tomorrow.
Oh,
And then we're gonna be taking a break, as some of our committee members will be away until January. So everybody's
Holidays.
gonna have a
Sure.
homework, everybody's gonna have a homework assignment. Sorry, I can't help myself. And explore some options and start reaching out to zoning and code enforcement, and, take a look at some of the things that are out there and not tie our hands, but
well, I mean, that's the thing.
education.
You folks get the same publications mostly that I get, and you read those, and it sort of edifies you on some things and then makes it a little cloudier on others. As I've said all along, these are the kind of issues I wish could be done more globally, at least at county or regional, so that there'd be a little more unanimity in the enforcement, et cetera. But without that, and there certainly has not been any initiative, we gotta take the bull by the horns and do the best we can.
Well, there's rumors that New York State is working on some control of the situation. And if New York State comes through with something, our work is moot.
It could be, yeah. Those of us around here are always so anxious to have the state come in and take control of anything.
Of course we are.
But as much as I'd love to see that, I think we're best to step up. I will say the most recent thing I read, which was just stunning to me, was what New York City is now doing, which is draconian. I mean, I don't know whether the hotel lobby finally got to them or what's happened, but it's very, very, very strict, and will deal with what was it they used to, you had an apartment and you're like a sublet or whatever. All of these different intricacies that people have used to sort of ameliorate their costs, now they're doing Airbnbs or some sort of short-term rental. But boy, this thing, it would start in January, like mid-January coming up, and it would really gut it. So they're gonna be in a sort of a bare fist thing with, well, Airbnb for one is told them they're gonna fight it, but I'm a little surprised. As usual, local municipalities, big or small, tend to get into these things long after the barn door's been open for a while and so on, but I appreciate the hard work and what you're doing on this, and you've got a very good sort of cross-section of
Very nice
of folks.
cross-section.
So,
If people are wondering, one of the concerns is, read last week's Hamilton County News about housing.
yep, it's
and
dire,
How many things aren't
particularly in
available.
Hamilton.
Hamilton is getting.
The four-county
hammered.
study was bad, Hamilton was, of course,
The worst.
as I said,
Just
in
the
Massachusetts.
amount of
Worcester.
housing
Yeah,
doesn't exist.
there's not a lot, I mean, Mr. Osborne has had his finger in those studies, and myself included. It's daunting, and it's a double-edged sword, because folks who are buying things that have been kind of dilapidated and fixing them up, boy, that's, who wouldn't be happy about that if you're a local elected official or something? But then when you realize that more and more and more of those things are being taken off of any sort of workforce housing availability, it's tough. Good luck on your work, and
Oh, thank you.
take the holidays off then.
Absolutely.
John, do you have anything on committee? I think most of our committees are covered through this, except for, of course, budget. I will throw in one thing that we'd had to address sort of at the last minute. Because of COVID, we've sort of lost a line that we used to fund for the continuing education and enlightenment of our board. COVID shut down the Association of Towns Assemblies all over, but the big one in New York, which is a good school. I've gone a number of times in it and made me somewhat smarter. But we now have two fairly new council ladies, and I thought, geez, maybe we should be offering this since it's back up and running. But it was short notice, and I appreciated that from you folks. But the budget committee has suggested, I think, a good idea to put some funds in next year's, the '24 budget, for just that. It meets in February, so it's like right out of the gate of the new
Is
budget year.
it always in New York City?
That one is, but there's others,
Okay.
there's others.
Okay.
There's things in Syracuse, there's things more local, Albany, that kind
Okay,
of thing. But the key is, the one good thing about New York is the tremendous global sort of exposure you have to small town New York State from all over. If you're up there in the courthouse, you kind of know the towns from around here, from Robin help us with them. This really is quite something. But it's expensive and it's difficult for folks, the traveling to the city, et cetera, parking, my gosh. But that said, we're gonna fund that, and I hope that you guys will, consider using them where you can.
Thank
Or-
you.
Or Don, we all have stuff to learn. Going back before we close it, Bill has something.
Yeah, I also would like to congratulate the board on coming in with what I would consider to be a remarkable budget for next year. These are uncertain economic times. And, inflation is far from transitory, as we were assured.
Right.
Depending upon who you listen to, we are or we are not going into a recession next year.
Exactly.
So I just hope that the board, in your forecast, keeping in mind that a forecast is only as good as the day you make it.
True that.
In your forecast, you have forecasted enough.
Some hard times.
Increases for costs next year, because costs ain't going down.
They don't appear to, particularly those things. I mean, we get nothing but ominous news about energy items, i.e. fuel, i.e. petroleum products, from this administration. So it's hard to imagine that, and so much of his budget, and you know what, in every building, right, whether it be this one or the primary care or the town hall or whatever, heating them, fueling them, the electric bills. Everyone has the exact same things at home that we're seeing maybe on a larger scale. But it's the tires and the diesel fuels and so on. Sure, I don't expect that in the 24 and 5 budgets that there's gonna be any much relief. What we were, Nancy is, wears the drum out for me on this one, not to gut our fund balances. Because, you know, whatever we forecast and whatever ball we use, we're probably gonna come up short. And fund balance is that rainy day fund that gives you some security. Now, I don't say that we built them very heavily this time, but they're very strong, reasonable now. And for those people who worry about where those things fall, I will tell you the story I mentioned at budget, which is every time you go to one of these conventions and schools, you have somebody from the controller's office, sometimes Tom DiNapoli himself, warning you not to pad them, but not to gut them, because they are an essential part of municipal. This is not anything like business planning or the way I or anybody small business. This is something that you have to do because it's a zero-sum game. All of the money that a town gets, with rare exception, comes in early on in the season when you get those very welcome letters from Stephanie about your town and county taxes. That comes in and it looks good, but it starts to deplete. Well, it's not like you can have a sale or whatever like I would do at the Inn or Charlie John. You're stuck with it, and if you didn't budget for some rainy day fund, you start running deficits, which big cities apparently are allowed to do. They take a very dim view of that in the annual update documents and things that the controller sees. I had an inkling when I first was elected as supervisor to squeeze I had a budget just like this. It could have been the exact same number. And I said, why don't we push forward? Why don't we make this a minus? Why don't we'll take this and this and this and that. Whoa. She guards it like, mother on their eggs. I said, but since then I've learned that they tell you at these schools, new politicians or somebody who wants to on a short cycle to get reelected always spends the rainy day fund to give back the baubles to the taxpayer that a year or two later, sometimes with them now out of office, now that's how deficit spending starts. So, Bill, we're very conscious of it. By the way, it was gonna be well higher than this. We saw you coming in the lot, and we really scratched it up pretty good to get it down to 1%, as you can be a handful.
One more comment,
Sir.
which is related to the budget and also the discussion about housing. There are two pieces of affordability in housing. One is the cost of the housing, and the other is the ability of the individual to pay. And Hamilton County, if you look at that study, has by far the lowest wages of any county in the area. The average wage in Hamilton County will allow you to buy, to a bank, to give you about a $50,000 mortgage. Don't know what you're gonna buy with 50,000 bucks.
Sure.
So I just hope that we're taking care of and making sure that our town employees are well compensated.
Well, in that budget.
Because we need them, they're doing a
Thank
great
you.
job.
Thank you.
And,
We
you know,
didn't specifically say it, but I'm glad you brought it up. It's the usual sort of thing where, we're squeezing pennies. Both these ladies were very strong on at least a 5% raise for across the board for our staffs. The elected officials took 4. I appreciate their understanding there. But there was talk up at county, and of course, the way this trickles down, whatever's being, talked about in other surrounding places is something you'll have to try to protect your own flank. But we felt 5 was good simply because we gave a much bigger raise than did county last year, and we're trying to keep them, particularly the starters. That's our real problem. The folks that we backfill, as good old Bill or good old Neil or Mary leave, the starters, first off, you're the lowest one on the totem pole, you're the lowest paid, and you pay 20% towards your health care, which of course is a bite. So yeah, we wanna make sure that those folks both appreciate, know that we appreciate them, but we just gotta keep them whole. They're both, most of them are all working, if they have a spouse, they're both working, and, you know, the help and the kid care comes into it. So it's it's a tough thing, and you have to both consider the taxpayer as well. But that's why I say, that we're proud of this, because it represents somewhere in the middle, with an idea that our fund balances, I want to assure the taxpayers, they're all strong across the board. Nancy just did a new sort of audit of those, which are always in flux. Another thing that some taxpayers are not aware of, but a few years ago, wisely, the town moved many of their fiscal responsibilities to blend with county. So county does the payroll, where they're the bigger computers and the folks that are geared for this. So basically, in the years since we last had a principal account clerk like Nancy, we have used the services and paid for them and saved money by doing so. So we have to constantly be on the phone with them. I will be again in the morning with Josh at the treasurer's. But it's a moving target, but pretty much all of them are 27, 28%, which is whole. It's very healthy. Not sandbagging money, and certainly not raiding the cookie jar, which is important.
Well, give yourselves a pat on the back.
Yeah. That can't be right, no.
Yeah, I just find it remarkable too that the committee made a budget like they did. I'm not on the committee, so, even the health insurance, which is the biggest expense of the town,
Biggest driver.
is up 10%.
Yeah.
Let
Well-
alone the fuel and the tires and the paving and all that other stuff.
And I think that a lot of these things are 2 and 3 year initiatives. And in this case, it was pairing some of the size of our staff, particularly at highway, at the landfill and so on, to try to get, bless you, to try to make it not onerous for the staff, but that they can handle it, but we're not having people standing around. Because truly, the biggest cost is health insurance. Very close to it is staff and the bennies that come with it, right? It's all tied together. So that's what allowed us to do it, and that's not just this year. We've been, doing this for some time, and that's a credit to the budget committee from previous, but also to Randy. We can talk about it more, but at this time, I would propose that we close the hearing portion of the show, if someone would move that.
Did any of the other visitors have any questions or comments?
Yeah, please do.
No? Okay, then so moved.
And we'll be available right through. Do
Okay.
you have a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Second by Rochelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So with closing the public hearing, I'm looking for somebody to move paying our bills.
I can make that motion.
We still have money left, so the motion's been made to pay. There are 3 abstracts, all have been reviewed and signed. Second, Kathy?
Sure.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And that brings us to public comment, which, something that isn't budget related, perhaps?
Well, usually it's Betsy looking at me when you say that. No, this is good. The holiday stroll is coming up the day after Thanksgiving, and the library will be one of the main venues. Most of the venues are inside this year, either in the chamber area or not the overflow, but many of the vendors will be here as well. I think we're going to have a full house, so I would hope that the community supports both places and the people who are participating from 2 to 6 on Saturday or Friday after
Black Friday,
Thanksgiving,
yeah.
Black Friday. And so
I can just say, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, when it was so god-awful cold.
was last year.
I came here-
And windy.
I wasn't sure what you were selling, but I came here to warm up.
So I just want to bring that out there too.
Poor Casey out there, things were whipping.
I was out there working
You were
for
working.
him, brushing the ice off the ornaments.
Good idea, but
So, welcome to the library on that day.
Yes, darn right. And just to give you another, the trunk and treat,
Oh, yes, and that was very successful. We had 133 people come to the.
That's pretty good.
parade. People were very pleased, it was very nicely decorated,
It was.
we had music playing, we had some outside people coming in, the Hartmans came with their bat flying, and we had,
Oh, I didn't hear about
good,
that.
new decorations put up, and it was a good time.
Real
And all-
bat?
And all of the kids got to get a free book on the way out.
Not a real
No,
one.
no, it's
Oh.
a battery operated one that
Gotcha.
flies around.
Yeah, nothing but great reports on that, so I
Yeah,
wanted to make sure.
good,
that-
good, thank you.
rabies
It was a
shots
lot of
were-
fun.
Yeah, rabies shots are next week here at the library.
It was fun for everybody. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nice.
That was good.
Thank you, Karen. How about roundtable? Kathy?
Reese Across America is going well, and the community, as always, is being amazingly supportive. We'll be finishing up somewhere in November with the ceremony being somewhere around the 15th or 16th, when I get a little firmer date from
Will
the
that be
trucking ship.
speculating?
We will, all 5 cemeteries.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
will do Speculator, Higgins Bay, and then the 3 town cemeteries.
Wow.
The goal is a wreath for every veteran. So we're looking at 750
Hundreds,
wreaths.
yeah.
So, and I think we're gonna be okay. I won't be like begging this year. It's looking well.
Thank you. Russia?
Hamilton County Public Health is doing a coat and costume drive. If anybody wants more information, I have the flyers here. But they are collecting those to be redistributed through the communities for those in need. Any of those items can be turned into the local school nurse.
Does that go to community action? Or where is it?
It's Hamilton County Public Health, so it's the Family Health Services. So
Okay.
probably the same office that does the
Yep.
community action.
Okay.
That's all I've
Well,
got.
they do a great job. Little crowded if you've been in that community action thing, next to the Indian Lake Theater. They're remarkable. They know where, if you're looking for something, they know where it is.
Oh my copies.
Don, anything on the
That one
roundtable?
is
I just
perfect.
wanted to ask Randy about recyclables. Are we doing single stream on curb now, or we're still back to the way we were?
Kind of in the middle.
It was in the paper.
It's in the
It
paper.
There was
wasn't-
an ad in the
You said we
paper.
shouldn't say anything till it was in the paper, right?
It's in the paper, they have a flyer out, but you can bag up your plastics and your,
Tin cans.
tin cans and paper in one bag. Then you can bag up your, glass in another bag. And then you can stack and tie still, because we carry it outside,
An open truck.
or the wind doesn't take it, all your cardboard.
And it can't get wet.
Correct, because now when they take it there, they just throw it in a pile, load it up with a loader and dump it into a dump truck and or tractor trailer and haul it away, the cardboard. And also all the plastics, no matter what color. You do not need to take caps off anymore.
That's good.
So we took it from 4 different colors and
Yeah,
so on. of
it's come
recycling.
down some.
We slimmed it down to cans and plastic and paper can go in one. So that's a big improvement.
Right, so we're not Long Island or Jersey yet, but we're
No.
And I can
catching
get
up.
rid of all of those paper bags.
Oh, the ones you've been hoarding like a cat lady?
I just didn't want to get the big shredded orange sticker tomorrow.
Not yet.
Yeah, don't be done. We don't want you being done by the
No
garbage.
orange
cans.
sticker for Don.
Well, I have a round table, which is simply tomorrow. This sneaks up on you because I know no one's talking about it. Tomorrow's election day. And some of you might be happy because you'll get your TV, your phone, or whatever back. I have sample ballots up here. Betsy was kind enough to put a few around town, Charlie's and so on. I point out 2 things, most importantly. We have a gentleman running for town justice as Don Purdy retires. And it's way over, I mean, people looking for it, including Nancy, who went up for early voting. you could easily miss it. So it's important, you know, if you wanna vote for the one and only candidate, who I strongly recommend, at least you'll know where he is, that's Mike Vischer. On the back of your ballot will be 3 initiatives. The first 2, Carol Merrill is pointing at the first 2 are things we've discussed and promoted through here like Vanna. The first one being changing the supervisor's term from 2 to 4 years. Second being changing the highway superintendent from 2 to 4 years. I'm a proponent of this for a number of reasons. Stabilizing county government, I'm very much hoping that we'll be able to do this and stagger them so that we continually have a stable county board. But also, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into these 2-year terms, and they go in the blink of an eye. I'm a proponent, and that's all I'll say on that. Those are there for you to decide on your own. The third one is a state initiative for a large bond of, Kathy, can you just read that one?
Sure.
Something million, a billion?
It is for $4.2 billion. It's up 101.2 from where Governor Cuomo had it.
That's more than the Powerball.
That is more than the Powerball. And in fact, what they call this in Albany is is obviously just a rounding error. It's just $4 billion. But for some folks, it's important that they know, A, it's on the back, and if you want to vote for it, there's some flowery language there about fresh air, et cetera, keeping in mind, one of the things it doesn't say there is that none of that money will be earmarked for these initiatives. So you vote for those.
You need to read the bill. I read it and I was like,
They leave them fairly open-ended. Again, with all you've heard across your various media about who to vote for and what state senator and so on, it's remarkable to me in this state with all that so little of this makes it in a mailer, in a public forum, in any way, shape, or form. And yet, there it is, and you put a couple of things that say fresh air, and enough people will check that box. But be aware, those are there, don't miss them. And I hope for those people who haven't jumped the shark and voted already, that they will all do so tomorrow. Our public hearing is closed. I will inform the board the next meeting is November 21, 2 weeks from tonight, here at the Lake Pleasant Library. Another item not here on your agenda, but might be of interest. It'll be an only business having to do with the adoption of said budget. This board usually waits until the very end, the 18th being the statutory date for filing our town budgets. So this board will be meeting 5 p.m. Town Hall, 11/17, that's a Thursday, with the express effort of the vetting and adoption of the town budget. And of course, which is statutory, any other business that may come before them. So you are all aware, and I would entertain a motion.
Well, I'll motion to adjourn.
And there it is.
your turn.
I'll second.
We have motion and seconded. We stand adjourned, and I thank you all for coming.
So is this was not
No,
actually happening, okay.
There's Michelle, the
Okay.
the official seconder.
They match up here, when you look at the calendar, they don't match down here, like, this is also on Sunday,
but maybe,
you know?
Randy or his wife would know. Do you know the young lady?
Stephanie might, I think she has the one guy whose name.
Yeah, she's on top of that.
I've had the pleasure to hear my son-in-law's board meeting for the town council.
None of that.
And, well, they usually last 3 hours for the screening.
Oh, right, turn off.